I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey, well, I need a dollar, dollar.
Jonathan Dharmapalan joins us right now, the founder of eCurrency Mint. Talk a little bit about some new technology allowing central banks to, well, Jonathan, what problem are you trying to solve for the central banks?
Well, as the world transitions steadily to a digital economy and mobile phones and electronic devices start to become the normal mode of transacting, central banks around the world have been wrestling with how to ensure their role in the digital economy going forward. And a primary role of central banks has been the production and distribution, the issuance of currency. And what we've been working with central banks on is to enable them to issue the world's very first digital currency, meaning a digital form of notes and coins that have the same features and characteristics of notes and coins, which is the sole purpose of the issuance function of a central bank, that can operate across any payment system, including mobile, internet, and other forms of digital payments.
So what would this be? I mean, when the banks, I'm speaking English here, as the banks make a transaction, quite often those transactions, there's never any actual currency changing hands at all. It's just numbers on a screen moving from one screen to the next.
Correct. So if you think of the world in sort of two groups, you have bank-enabled transactions that are essentially available to the public that has bank accounts and have the ability to execute bank-to-bank transactions. And then you have the other world, which is the currency-based world, where transactions are executed using currency that don't require bank accounts, and in many ways are executed by people who don't have bank accounts. So if you think of the world of people who don't actually execute bank-based transactions on a regular basis, who live in a currency world, this enables digital currency transactions that they can execute, we all can execute, without the necessity to go through the formal banking infrastructure.
Who are these people you're talking about that aren't living in the banking world? Are you talking about emerging economies? What are you talking about?
Yes. So essentially, Carol, we have people in emerging economies where less than 20% of the population is actually bank-enabled. But even in developed economies, if you think about the U.S. or the U.K. or Europe, a significant portion of that population isn't bank-enabled. I'll give you an example. Our children are frequently not bank-enabled, so almost all of their transactions are executed in pure currency form.
So interesting also, what does this mean for, I guess right now the technology is what, principally?
So right now, the technology has been enabled in various forms of private electronic monies. So you have mobile monies that are proliferating around the world. You have prepaid cards that are proliferating, issued by private companies to execute transactions within those private networks. What this evolution does is enables all of these privately issued currencies or monies to be transformed into a single sovereign legal tender unit. As a result, these privately issued monies can now transact not only in those private closed circles, but across multiple platforms, just like our currency today operates. So a U.S. dollar can be spent in any store, can be exchanged by anyone with anyone else. Unfortunately, that U.S. dollar only comes in a coin and or note form. With an e-currency-enabled U.S. dollar, an e-U.S. dollar, you will be able to do that digitally as well.
Does it get, though, we've only got about 40 seconds left here, Jonathan, does it become, though, a bit more confusing if you've got financial institutions, central banks kind of each issuing their own digital currency?
Well, it actually takes some confusion away. Essentially, what we're talking about is only the central bank issuing digital currency under the currency law of the country.
But each central bank of each country can issue their own digital currency.
Precisely, because they have the sole right to issue that nation's currency. So in the U.S., the U.S. Treasury and the Fed Reserve make that possible for us. In India, it would be the Reserve Bank of India, and so on and so forth, each issuing their own sovereign currency.
Jonathan, we'll have to continue this conversation another time, but thanks for checking in with us. Jonathan Dharmapalan, he's founder of eCurrency Mint, on the phone in Palo Alto, California. You're listening to Bloomberg Radio.